Today on AI for the Rest of Us, we're joined by Kyle Balmer. Yes, the guy who went viral on TikTok for his eyebrows, but more importantly, for making AI simple and practical. Kyle has built a global audience teaching everyday people how to use tools like ChatGPT, running workshops, and writing hundreds of thousands of words to make sense of this very fast moving world. In our chat, he shares with Sylvain and I how he got started, why the basics matter, and how anyone can begin using AI right now. AI for the Rest of Us is a thriving community of over 1,000 AI explorers. Join us for the 2-day conference on October 15th and 16th. We promise inspiring and practical talks without all the jargon. For our listeners, you can use the code LIVE25 for 25% off on the ticket price. Now, let's get into the episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to AI for the Rest of Us podcast. My name is Bart Farrell. I'm joined by my co-host, Sylvain Kalache, and today we are speaking to Kyle Balmer. Kyle, for folks who don't know you, although you do interact with, I think, an audience of up to 250,000 people, can you just give us a brief overview of who you are, what you do?
Sure. So I'm primarily a TikToker for my sins. It's not something that I thought I'd ever be able to say. And I produce content helping to educate people about how to use ChatGPT and other AIs in daily life. I also run a workshop business where I go and deliver workshops globally as well as facilitate other people by providing them with my materials so they can go and give their own workshops. I am bizarrely also famous for my eyebrows. I went viral on TikTok for my eyebrows, which was very bizarre, and it was my first taste of how strange the internet can be. So yeah, you either know me from the AI or the eyebrows. It's one or the other, and nothing else.
AI brows, we got a little bit of everything there. Okay, but your eyebrow journey is one thing, but how did your AI journey start? Walk us through that.
So I used to run a digital marketing agency. I've always had my own businesses. I'm permanently unemployable at this point. So I've had a digital marketing agency, which around the time of GPT-3 breaking into the public and into the mainstream, we were already in a moment of pivoting. And I remember seeing GPT 3.5 come out, playing around with it and thinking, it's not very good. But I think it's going to be. I think it won't be long before this is going to be a big problem. And there was a lot of scuttlebutt, a lot of people discussing whether it was ever going to be good enough. And still, we are having these conversations. Is it coming for people's jobs or not? But I remember thinking at the time, like, even if this isn't good enough now, it's probably going to be, and I need to throw myself into learning as much as humanly possible to, I basically wanted to be on the correct side of history. So I started to read, I started to watch as much as I could, and then also to write. So I started up a newsletter helping to translate artificial intelligence to practical applications. So over the last, I'd say, 2 years now, I've written 700,000 plus words on the practical applications of artificial intelligence. So how to actually use it in a business setting, in a marketing setting. Every day writing about a couple of thousand words for a newsletter. So that was the slightly mad way in which I educated myself by teaching other people at the same time.
And what do you think went happened between, kind of this GPT-3 phase, which where the number of users using it was very niche to now like this massive adoption where pretty much anyone knows about LLMs.
So I think increasingly people have started to, well, at the base level, they've started to replace Google with generative AI. So we're moving from a paradigm of searching for information to generating the information. I think that has been the large mover when we're looking at the 700 million plus users of a application like ChatGPT. Most people are still at that level, which is a good place to start. And it's a really good way to transition people to using Gen AI. But I'm really excited to kind of take them up to the next level and unlock the potentials of what they can actually do with this technology.
So, and with that in mind, can you talk a little bit more about the kind of workshops that you're giving, the audiences that you're serving, as well as the international component? Because I understand you're based in the UK, as you'll be speaking, the conference AI for the Rest of Us.
Mm.
But what about the international aspect here?
Um, so a couple of things there. In terms of the workshops, you'd be surprised how basic they need to be. This is something that I tell my students when people go and teach my workshop material globally. is that they should never overestimate the level of knowledge that's going to be in that room. So sometimes I'll give them my materials and like, oh, this is too basic, and I have to tell them it's like, no, that's because of your level. So if you're the kind of person who's listening to a podcast like this, if you're the kind of person who's coming to a conference like the one in October, you're already in the tiny minority of people who are actively engaging with this technology. And we forget that because we see it every day on Twitter, on Reddit, in our social media, in the newsletters, other people who are talking about this stuff. And we forget that most people are not at that level. They are struggling to start to integrate this because a lot of the time there are psychological blocks. There are many, many reasons why people are not interested in using AI, and many good reasons. I mean, there are concerns that we need to address, but a lot of the time it is just a psychological block to something new. And that means that some people have not tried it. So at the workshops I give, often we need to go from the very basics. So it's always a trick balancing out the people in the room. Because imagine going and giving a workshop on the internet. You're going to have people who, well, maybe not now, but early days, you would have people who've never used the World Wide Web. And then you have people who are more advanced for it. It's the same with ChatGPT and AI. Because it's such a general purpose technology, there's going to be a huge range of ability within a room.
So what's fascinating about AI is used to be, used by very specific practitioner, and as you said, now we are transitioning to something that's more uh, very much consumer centric, and you can use it for like business use case or pretty much anything in your life. You just told us before we started recording the podcast about your time in China, and your quest for dumpling. Can you tell us your story?
Yeah, I think that actually comes back to Bart's question before, which I did not answer about the international differences. So when was it? It was a couple of months ago. I spent 6 months over in Asia. Not 6 months, 6 weeks, excuse me. That would be lovely.
That's okay.
I don't have the time for that anymore. So 6 weeks over in Asia. And I was in Beijing, which is a place I used to live. I lived in Beijing for 2 years before. So I'm fairly familiar with the city. I speak decent Mandarin, but I was looking for a particular dumpling place in Hutong, this kind of alleyway complex, and I just could not find it. Anyone who's been to Beijing would know that there are these kind of labyrinths of alleyways once you go off the beaten track, and it's really hard to find anything. And I asked a grandmother, a nai nai, if she could help me find this dumpling place. And I was able to speak in Mandarin for a bit, and then it kind of broke down. If you've heard the Beijing accent, it's it sounds a bit like a pirate. It's like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." It's lots of R's in it. It's a fascinating accent, but I was struggling. And she saw that, and instead of kind of waving me away or even pulling out a translation app, she pulled up DeepSeek. She typed in Chinese into DeepSeek something, and then handed it over to me. And in English, it responded. So she'd given it to the message. Oh, can you tell this stupid young, the stupid young English speaker tell this idiot Lao Wai who's lost. I want to get rid of him. Tell him where this dumpling shop is. And DeepSeek gave me the information in Chinese. This woman was conservatively probably in her 70s, which made me realize like, oh, okay, China is taking this extremely seriously. And there were other indications, like when I was flying over, I was sitting next to a woman on the plane, started chatting in Chinese, and she told me that she's from Hangzhou, and she proudly declared that it was the birthplace of DeepSeek. So there was a pride about, that's where I'm from, it's known for DeepSeek. It's like, oh, okay. And this was before I'd mentioned anything about AI. And then other small signs like you go into the large bookshops in Beijing, front and center are books about how to use artificial intelligence. So they're the best sellers. They're the ones at the counters. They're the ones that are being pushed. So it felt like a very different culture to certainly what we see in the UK, but also in America, where in China it is something that the general public are proud of and excited to be part of, which I think we don't see in the UK. We see more of it in America, but in the UK and Europe, I definitely see a lot less.
And with that in mind, you interact with this audience, you said primarily on TikTok. What are the questions that people from all over the world are asking you? Are they different by region, or do a lot of things seem to have a sort of common thread?
Ooh, tricky to tell. I mean, I do a live every single morning about 10 a.m. London time, where I basically run through the AI news updates of the day. There's always something new, thankfully, so it's not hard for me to talk. Um, but this morning, for example, we had someone from Vietnam, we had someone from Syria, we had somebody from Sweden who comes every single morning, which I always find amazing. And someone else, from Burundi. So they were all on this chat, kind of, they said where they were from and they're asking questions. I would say, I don't think there's necessarily a geographical difference or variation in the questions being asked. What I think is more astounding is the fact that there are people from all over the world who are learning about that stuff, who are watching a stuffy British nerd sitting in his front room at 10 a.m. Talking about artificial intelligence. And there were people from globally who are interested in this stuff. And I just find that so, so exciting.
One of the hot topics that you discuss on your channel is the new release of OpenAI with GPT-5. And among the nerd circle, it's a very highly debated topic. What do you see, from your point of view and with the audience? Is that something that matters to them? Do you see GPT-5 as, is it controversial among your audience?
Amongst my audience members on social media, or my audience members when I go and talk to the general public, because they're very different.
Interesting. Let's go. Yeah, let's explore both of them actually.
So general public don't care. They get a better model. It's got a higher number. Cool. They don't care. So from the point of view of the public, the models are getting better and better. And I think that if we step back as people who are embedded in this, who are watching this every single day, we're focusing on minutiae. But if we step back and look at models from 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 24 months ago, we've come so far. So we're kind of complaining about little edge case uses. I know there was controversy about 4.0 and the personality and GPT-5 and the router switching and stuff like that. But if we take the longer view and think 6 months from now, all of this stuff will smooth out and we're just going to have better and better and better models. And I think because the general public are not so in depth thinking about this stuff every day, that's the view that they're getting, is that, AI is just getting better. Cool. Which is very different from what we've seen over the last week. So as you say, GPT-5 has been the hot topic. When did it come out? A week ago?
Yeah,
about a week ago. Yeah. So it's just been all everyone's talking about, and nobody's happy. And even Sam Altman came out, I think it was yesterday, and he said, we screwed it up. That was the language he used. He said, we messed up the rollout, basically. And he's already talking about GPT-6. So they know they messed up.
Well, what's interesting, I don't know, I haven't read through all the comments on the internet about the complaint, but I think one interesting characteristic, we speak about personality, which is usually something you've only linked to humans, not product or software, let alone software, right? So we are really entering in a new interesting era where we use this characteristic for a piece of software. I know that we say we are nitpicking, but do you feel that this personality of GPT-5 is more tailored toward consumer audience, and the tech people got it wrong, or maybe the tech community is onto something?
Oh man, there's a lot to unpack here. So I think what they were trying to do, the unified model, is good for the consumer, because previously the drop down, a lot of people didn't know there was even a drop down. They did not know they could do model switches. Even if they found that model switcher, you were presented with, let me try and remember. So it would be 03, 4.0, 4.0 mini, 4.0 mini high, 4, 4.2, etc., etc. So if you were not an advanced user, if you clicked on that drop down, you'd be like, ugh, and you'd panic. There's no way for you to know how to pass your way through that. So I think the idea of a unified model, a model that will basically route you in the direction of what you need, I think that's a great idea. And I think that's where we will probably move in the future. It was just that implementation was not up to snuff this time. And then they very quickly basically went back on everything within a day or two. I think the pressure from external factors got to them very, very quickly, and they went immediately into panic mode. So we ended up with, well, first they rolled out the legacy models. So now we have 4 versions of GPT-5 and all the legacy models and the personalities. So I think we're in an even worse place than we were before because they didn't stick to their guns. In terms of personality as a whole, and the concept of that being important with artificial intelligence that is new, I think. And I think as the models all reach a level of intelligence, and I'm going to scare quote that, a level of intelligence where the majority of us can't tell the difference. They're all very, very good. If you're using Opus 4, if you're using Gemini 2.5, if you're using maybe Grok's a bit of a weird one, or GPT-5, they're all very good. So I think it's going to increasingly be about which one do you prefer to work with? Which one do you prefer to spend time with? And that does come down to personality. There is also, and Sam Altman just talked about this yesterday, when he's talking about GPT-6, he's saying it's going to be about memory. It's going to be about the model knowing who you are and adapting to that. And I found that with ChatGPT in particular, myself. I used to be a Claude maximalist, using Claude for absolutely everything. But the persistent memory in ChatGPT, absolute killer function. Like it makes it so sticky because ChatGPT knows everything about me. It knows my tech setup. So if I need to ask a tech question, it has all of that context already. Whereas if I had to do that with Claude, I'd have to feed in that context. And Claude just added a memory function last week. Gemini have just added it as well, but they're not quite up to snuff with ChatGPT. So I think increasingly it's going to be less about the raw intelligence of the model and more about the user experience, because the intelligence is getting to a point where most people aren't going to be able to tell the difference unless you're an engineer or a coder or at the kind of fringe of your particular industry. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, I really like, outside of I won't discuss GPT-5 performance, but in terms of UI for OpenAI, I think it was very smart for them to switch away from model names, which most people would not know. But instead of speaking about model type, like say, hey, you can switch your tool to be in fast mode, thinking mode, or pro mode, and for each of this mode, it explains what are the attributes, and that I think that's like a much more natural way to help people decide which model is the best for them.
Yeah, I think that is where we'll go as well. I think eventually we won't be thinking about what model we want to use. I think that will be a vestige that we get rid of eventually.
Going back to the folks that you're working with, particularly in the area of charities, it might seem almost strange to some people to imagine, let's say, a locally bootstrap charity that maybe does a couple fundraisers per year that's trying to help out with their, let's say, a rare illness or some social justice cause. What are the things that that you're helping them to use AI for? Tell us more about that.
So the main use case is fundraising. Fundraising, just being able to put in more applications for funding is extremely valuable for every single charity out there. But generally, these are organizations. These are organizations that have people in them and they have administrative tasks they need to do. They have operational tasks. So AI can be used all over the particular charity. And I think very few people are going out of their way to teach charities about AI, probably because there's not much money in it. So the charities and nonprofits are getting left behind a little bit, which is unfair because they need to know how this technology is affecting them as well. So one charity I worked with is an asylum seeking, like refugee charity here in London. And they had one of the big four, I won't name and shame them, but had given them money and also kind of a package of education. And part of this was sending in an AI expert to come and talk to them about AI. And this guy came in and he's got 2 PhDs. He's written a textbook on machine learning. Smart dude, very smart dude. He started to talk about how large language models work and how Gen AI works and the mathematics behind it and stuff like that. Stuff that they didn't need to know. we don't need to understand the how in order to be able to use it. And I think that's a really important point, that we kind of need to stop gatekeeping this technology. There are a lot of people who are engineers in this space, and they make it more complex than it needs to be. I like to think of it like the internet. Like, we don't need to know what HTTPS or URL stand for in order to be able to use the internet. We just use the internet. And I think we need to help charities, nonprofits, normal people also come to that realization with AI as well, that if you can use WhatsApp, you can use ChatGPT. Like, it is natural language. It's very easy to use, but people still are hesitant because they believe it's a new technology. Oh gosh, am I going to have to learn how to use this? Is this something else I need to worry about? So we just need to get them over that hurdle. And that's the main work I do with charities, honestly, is going in and showing them, this is what you can use it for. Here are things you need to look out for. Like, it can make stuff up, like giving them those basics and then setting them on their own way, basically.
So if some of the listeners today, are like, hey, I want to get started, but I'm not sure how, what would be your top advice?
With AI in general,
Yes.
honestly, just get ChatGPT on your phone. This sounds incredibly basic, but make sure you get the right version. There are so many fake ChatGPT versions on the iStore. It is mad. Look for the one by OpenAI. So go ahead and download that, and then just start to play with it in daily life. So if there's something that you would Google, go ahead and ChatGPT it for now, just to kind of see what different answers you get from it, and if there's anything else that it can give you that Google doesn't. So I think a lot of people move through that transition of first using it as a replacement for Google. And I'm sure Google are seeing this, and they're probably seeing their traffic numbers plummeting. Um, and from there, you start to learn what it's good at and what it's not so good at. And you can start to engage it in other parts of your life. But it requires that kind of play early on, because it's a general purpose technology. So the things you can do with it are incredibly broad. It's a bit like the internet or the computer. Like, what we can do with those technologies is massive. We can build things on top of that. We haven't scratched the surface of what we can do with Gen AI. And I think that is exciting because we're all kind of learning. There aren't people who are, well, there's a handful of them, but there aren't that many people who are like the experts that everybody listens to about everything, because we are all trying to work this out at the same time, which is genuinely super exciting. It's like, I imagine being at the beginning of the internet and everybody kind of clubbing together, working out how to best use these things. What's it good at? What's it not good at? So if you've never used AI before, you're not that far behind, which is really exciting, I think.
Now we have to ask the questions a little bit more serious. Since you did mention this in the beginning, your identity in terms of how you interact with your audience, it comes down to your eyebrows. And I asked ChatGPT, who has the best eyebrows in the world, and it shared that Zayn Malik, Lily Collins, Frida Kahlo, Jason Momoa, got some other names on there too. Do you identify with
Strong.
these folks because of their eyebrows? But more importantly, what I am interested in is, in terms of other folks that are out there that are speaking about AI that perhaps don't have the eyebrows that you have, but you do admire them because of what they're sharing with the world. Is there anybody out there who you look up to or you recommend to other folks who are trying to learn that they should take a look at as well?
Absolutely. So, couple of names. I'm sure the same names keep popping up on this podcast. Ethan Mollick would be one. I'm just looking around me. No, I don't have his book here, but he wrote a book called Co-Intelligence. He is a professor at Wharton, and he posts very regularly on LinkedIn and X in particular. So he's not a technologist, but he talks about how the technology is being used and integrated into society, and he goes through the research, the recent research of the day, and kind of explains why this is important, because there's a huge amount of noise in artificial intelligence, and he helps to cut through that. Someone else, Nate B. Jones, he's on, I think he's primarily on TikTok, actually. He calls himself the greybeard of AI because he's a little bit older. Not really that much older, but he has got a grey beard. And again, he's a magnificent communicator of why this technology is important. So those two would be my top recommendations of people who you should be listening to. Just very, very smart, but also good communicators.
So you'll be a speaker at the AI for the Rest of Us conference happening in London in October. Can you tell us what you will speak about?
You're assuming that I've worked it out already. I've got a few months. I haven't worked that out. No. So I'm gonna I'm gonna be talking I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna be talking specifically about basically the education gap in AI right now. And if you are from a particular industry, so if you're a teacher or you work in the aeronautics or the manufacturing industry and you have lived experience inside of an industry and you know about artificial intelligence and you've been paying attention to AI and you've been using AI in your daily basis, that actually puts you in a really good position to carve out a space as a champion, a leader, an evangelist within your particular industry. Because there aren't many of them at the moment. There are people who are talking about AI in general, people like myself, people like Ethan Mollick, Nate B. Jones, etc. There are people who are talking about, hey, here are the cool new tools in AI, etc. There are very few people who are saying, I am the AI for aeronautics guy. I am the person who does AI for teachers, for example. There aren't that many people who've carved out that space. So I think it's a wide open field if you want to take it. So I'm going to be talking about how it's possible to combine your industry expertise. So if you've spent time in an industry plus your AI knowledge and become a bridge, a translator between those two worlds, and why by doing that, you can position yourself to be in a really good situation moving forward, because we don't know what's going to happen to all these industries. But if you're in that place where you are interfacing between AI and your industry, there's going to be opportunities. So that's speaking opportunities, that is giving workshops, for example, because companies pay very well for workshops. I'm going to be talking about how you'd get into that sphere, start to grow out your brand and start to give workshops. And off the back of that, you can do advisory, consulting, etc., etc. So that will be the gist of the workshop.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge with us today, Kyle. And look forward to seeing you in person in London for AI for the Rest of Us. We'll leave all of your links in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. If people do want to reach out though directly, what's the best way to do so?
So I'm on pretty much all of the main social platforms as I am Kyle Balmer. So that's going to be the best way because I'm most active there. I'm terrible at email. My business partner does all of that. So social media is going to be the best place. And LinkedIn, I'm very responsive.
Very good. Thank you very much, Kyle. Take care.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Cheers.